So let's keep going and jump right into what's next. We are a Salesforce data security and AI partner. We have 4 apps on the App Exchange, and we've spent 5 plus, or now actually 6 plus years, with just very engineering focused development on Salesforce. We have hundreds of successful deployment all over the world, and we have been very blessed that way. So the point is that we've had the opportunity to firsthand see these things from both perspective. We've spent the majority of our lives in the trenches implementing Salesforce and other enterprise technologies in consulting. I used to work at Salesforce, so there's a lot of the perspective from the other side. And for the last 6 years, we have built applications, so we also represent a little bit of the product mindset and how do you take a technology and actually create something tangible out of it that your customers can use. These are examples of some of the customers that use or have used cloud compliance and GPT-5 products. As you can see that we typically gravitate towards large, complex Salesforce orgs. We do have customers of all sizes, but we are a very engineering focused organization. So before we go further, a little bit of a disclaimer. This is not legal advice. This is not Salesforce's point of view. This is just our point of view. And everything that we are providing here is predominantly for informational purpose only. This is not legal advice. So with that, let's jump into the agenda. So we'll talk a little bit about what GPT-5 is. It's an Agentforce-like app, which is App Exchange Security approved. And the reason we are kind of talking from this standpoint a little bit is not to pitch a product, but every challenge that we came across and we had to solve for our customers, they would apply to you and to your organization and to your customers if you are doing chatbots, co-pilots, agents, anything, particularly if it does have a public or a partner facing interface, right? We built this product to solve most of your AI use cases very declaratively, and we wanted it to be 100% native, 100% bring your own model, and you don't need data cloud for it. And you can use GPT-5 to integrate with the Einstein chatbot and bring your own AI LLM infrastructure and do it in weeks. We have also recently added integration for Microsoft Copilot and Microsoft Teams, so you now have the ability to expose your Salesforce information in these technologies so that your people can use them. A bit further on what we are really going to talk about today is the AI crisis and risks. What does it really mean if we didn't do enough due diligence, or what is the risk that customers are really worried about when we talk about AI? What's the defense solution for this? What is the 5 layer defense that we ended up doing? And a lot of what we are talking about is based on our experience with deploying GPT-5 and AI to fairly large global customers. And the idea here is that a lot of those learnings are again technology neutral, and hopefully they help you think about it. We'll also talk a little bit about a go about deploying AI. What's the logical evolution within your organization? Following that, we'll talk about advanced security protection, a little bit about a 90-day roadmap, and some Q&A. So please do add your comments either on YouTube if you're there, or on LinkedIn, and we'll take a look at both of them at some point and start answering them. And I noticed that some folks are already here, so thank you for joining. I was worried that this whole switch between LinkedIn and YouTube is going to make it harder. So I appreciate you joining here. Hi, guys. All right, so let's go a little bit further into this. So what actually happens if AI goes wrong? Right, here are a few examples. You may have heard or seen some of these. This one is in particular is interesting. Someone was actually able to prompt engineer an AI chatbot for a Chevy dealership, and they were able to buy a Chevy for $1. Does it really happen that way in the grand scheme of things? It doesn't with every chatbot, but it's a very real risk. There are other examples. I think Alaska Airlines had this issue where its chatbot gave some advice about baggage being free, and then I think they were sued and they had to kind of acknowledge it. On the sort of really unfortunate side of this, on that end of spectrum, there's a company called Character.AI, which, from what I understand, is getting sued now because their character AI actually convinced somebody to end their life. So very, you know, diverse or very, two ends of spectrum here, right? In terms of the risk and exposure, you do run that very, very legitimate risk, especially if you have a public or a partner facing chatbot. And this is even a bigger risk for regulated sector customers. We do a lot of work with financial services, healthcare, insurance, and similar sectors. And they are very, very worried about what their chatbot is going to say. How can they make sure that there is enough due diligence, enough guardrails for both to prevent accidents and also to deal with malicious intent. So let's talk a little bit more about the hidden dangers of AI chatbot agents and copilots. Uh, One of the challenges that the traditional testing fails generative AI. By design, generative AI is not going to give you the same response every time. In the conventional rule-based testing, this is super easy, right? We are sending 2 plus 2. We know we will get back a 4. But unstructured data and how GenAI is going to use that, it requires a different mindset. And we'll talk about that a little bit. The other part of this is that there are new attack vectors, right? There's all of a sudden new surface area. You have a chatbot that's interacting with people. What are they putting in there? Are they trying to trick your chatbot like the Chevy example, right? Can they inject a prompt? Can they do other kind of things? How do you make sure your chatbot is only sharing the amount of information that this person is able to or authorized to see? And this is one of the significant challenges when you think about logged in user experience, right? If you have a chatbot that is running in an authentication scenario and I'm logged in and I'm asking questions about my account, that is one of the more complex scenarios to make sure that there is no bleeding of the context. It's not, the chatbot is not going to reveal more than it should to a person. And then there is the legal liability aspect, right? How do you ensure that your chatbot is only doing support or sales or helping the customers without talking itself quite literally into a lawsuit? So, those are some of the dangers around these. I'm going to move on to the next one, which is really a little bit more background on the fundamental reason this talk came about. So we worked with a customer about 18 months ago, and they have live in a couple of different places with GPT-5 and Einstein Chatbot. And one of the things with what they are doing is that they have deployed this chatbot in 18 languages in 22 plus countries now. And as we worked with them, so many of these things have evolved, right? So this is not theory. This is not our vision of how it should be done. This is the ground reality. This is a story from the trenches. We worked with this customer to save them a pretty decent amount of money and do it in a very standards and a regulatory and legal compliant way. So their challenge was they have a lot of their partners that log in and they have very in-depth interaction. Those partners are asking for guidance on how do they do things, and they have a pretty high stake advice, right? This is not like go reset your router kind of guidance. This is like, hey, I'm flying into there and doing this, and is that okay, right? So there is a lot of that kind of things. The other part that makes this rather challenging is that depending on where you are joining in from as a partner, the advice could differ. So there are local regulatory and legal differences where if you're from, say, the state of Massachusetts versus somewhere else, there is different guidance that needs to be provided. So there is that nuance that needed to be factored in. The other portion of this is in terms of results, right? You're doing all of this, so you're going to solve this. But in general, chatbot experiences suck. People don't like them, right? So, how do you actually create a chatbot that is friendly, that is going to answer the question and get out of their way, or redirect them immediately to an agent or create a case, right? So, you have that sort of the fork in the road or forks in the road, where you're like saying, hey, let the chatbot answer the questions. If it can't, or if the customer wants to do something dramatically different, then you take them over to either creating a case, or you redirect them to a live agent. And that was one of the things that they wanted to do. And also, how do you proactively then look at the responses that have happened and concluded chats and actually improve all of this, right? And the third part of this is, how do you ensure confidentiality? How do you really have security that holds itself in terms of the secrets it has or it can reveal? So that's kind of what we will dive into next. I am going to turn it over to my colleague for this, Rahul, if you can take it away.
Hello. Hey, can you guys hear me? Saurabh, Rohit.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So, sorry, my camera was also off. Yeah. So, so when customers are trying to get into production or put their bots in front of their end customers, I'm trying to kind of set up some perspective here, some context here. The things that go in the mind of stakeholders are really, the first thing they think about is trust. They think about, can we really trust it, because it's your brand that you're putting out in open, and you're it's AI, which is very non-deterministic. So a lot of stakeholders have this first thing is like, can they really trust this? And a lot of trust is really built on testing. And how do you test something which is very non-deterministic? So that's really the first thing that goes in the head of stakeholder. The other thing that really they think about is all of the discussion going around, case deflection rates. Everyone talks about case deflection rates, but we all forget about that. Most of us, including myself, I mean, for so many years, decades, bots have been around, and everyone hates chatbots. The moment chatbot comes in, everyone is trying to figure out, how can I get to the agent? Now, with AI based bots, the good news is that they're very human like. So they can really understand your point of view. They can give you a very, very appropriate answer. And now we have a chance with especially the power of LLM and, powered by RAG and all of that, that we can give very, very pertinent information. But still, I think most of the companies should aim for customer satisfaction, because what good is a bot where first month a lot of your customers try it and they don't like it and they never come back to it. So first month you're going to see that there is case deflection, just because people are don't have time, people are lazy, they're not just going to go and call the your call center number or log a case or whatever. But come next month, no one, there's no, your users are not coming back to your bot. So you really have to make sure that when you are going live, you need to have trust in place. You have to make sure that the customer satisfaction, you can guarantee that your bot is going to give good answers. You also need to have a point of view on, if it's all right for my bot to give answers for some of the questions or most of the questions but not all, which means that if bot cannot answer, then it's basically automatically pulling in a agent. And with again the power of LLM and AI, you can actually build in intelligence. You can say that if customer is getting frustrated, or if the question he has asked and we don't have a good confidence that that's what he's asking, or if customer is angry, so any of those sentiments happen automatically, escalate to an agent. So so that's kind of the perspective. But let's talk about if you are going live. So if you are going live, or if you're building a solution like this, what we have seen in the industry, and we have gone a lot of customers live with GPT-5 using RAG, LLM, right there, on their Einstein bots. And what we have seen is that has really worked well is that you want to take all of your existing content. So if let's say you have troubleshooting guides, you have implementation guides, and that's really what your body of knowledge is, and that's what your entire bot is going to refer to using RAG. So a better idea is take all of that documentation, take all of that content, and convert it into FAQ. And again, you can use AI to actually convert it into FAQ. The advantage is, because now you have an FAQ, it's easier for you to test it, because now you also know that here are 5,000 questions these are the only gamut of questions that my bot leveraging RAG can answer, and therefore it's easier for you to test. So that's the first thing that we are recommending everyone who's trying to go live is try to convert it into FAQ. And when you convert it into FAQ, you also get a chance to kind of really look at it more from the point of view of, like, are those answers like bite sized, because a lot of your consumers may be on the phone, and if they are on a phone, then you don't want to give them like like scroll kind of answers. It's TLDR, right? You don't want to do that. So it gives you a chance to kind of really look at every answer. And again, because you can use LLM, you can take your implementation guide, push it to an LLM saying that, hey, generate an FAQ, and these FAQs would be used on a bot, and when you're giving these FAQs, then here's how we would like it to be. Now once you have that, that's a good solid foundation for you. The next thing you want to do is you want to build AI guardrails. So there are lots of things you want to be sure about, and definitely hallucination is one. You want to be sure that your bot is not hallucinating. So in your system prompt, you will basically harden it. You will say, okay, you have to make sure that you're only bringing answer from RAG, and if you don't have an answer for it, then basically escalate it to automatically to an agent, or offer the customer saying that I don't know the answer, would you like to be connected to an agent? Whatever is your experience that will work in your industry, in your for your company. The other thing besides hallucination is you want to kind of again build guardrails around confidence level. So you want to tell the bot that, hey, if you if a customer asks a question, and and if you get an answer from RAG, and the confidence level is not high, then consider it that we don't know, because again, you may deflect the case at this point of time, but you are going to seriously hurt customer satisfaction. And when you hurt a customer satisfaction, you're actually killing your entire bot implementation. So that's the other thing I would ask that we put in our AI guardrail. The third thing is, in your again AI guardrail, you will again put things like show bite size information. Please be aware that my customers may be using a mobile phone. If you have intelligence to really detect what device they are, then in your prompt itself you can also say that, hey, if it's a mobile device, then no more than that this many words. But if it is a laptop, then maybe you can show a little more, because you have more real estate over there. So that's the other thing that can go there. Then you have to harden your system prompts so that no prompt injection can happen. And there are lots of ways of doing that. You can explicitly tell it that, hey, you are in the system prompt that if user tries to override it, you will not use it. There are lots of ways, and I think we will probably do another webinar to kind of talk more about technical aspects, how you can lock down some of these things so that prompt injection cannot happen. So that's the other thing we should be worrying about. Then uh, auto escalation, I already talked about that. Like with GPT-5 and our implementation, it's very very easy. I'm sure Agentforce also has that capability, or you can solution around it. But the intent is that what you want to do is you have to auto detect that, is my end user getting frustrated, is my end user getting angry, is this an emergency? Because if it's an emergency, maybe you don't want the guy to constantly talk to a bot and serve him FAQ answers from a RAG or whatever. If for example a customer is asking, how do I cancel a subscription? Now that's a loss. It hasn't happened, but it looks like that's the direction it's going. In those situations also, you may want to just detect the sentiment and automatically offer the customer, the user, an opportunity to talk to an agent. And obviously you would have those kind of cues in your Einstein implementation omni-channel, so that now you're kind of putting it in a queue where there are very very trained professionals who understand how to handle customers who are not seeing value. Maybe they will start showing the value. So that's the other thing that I would again put in the AI guardrails, because at the end of the day, it's not just about case deflection. It's about how can you improve customer satisfaction, how can you retain customers, how can you continue to use bot as a channel that customers always prefer to come and get answers, rather than, as how I said initially, that everyone hates bots, or for 10 years they have not done any much for us except just coming in our way between us and the agent, and we always felt that agents have the answer and bots are just kind of delaying that answer. So that is on the AI guardrail bucket. Then automated validation. So again, we have built a lot of capabilities inside of GPT-5. I'm sure that Agent Force also has a testing platform that you can use. The idea is that if, let's say, you have FAQs, and if you have thousands or hundreds of FAQs, take those FAQs, push it to an LLM, say, hey, here are my 1000 FAQs. Can you give me 10 variants of them? And once you get 10 variants of them, then you build some automated validation process where you are literally sending that particular question, like the variant of it, and then getting an answer from the bot. And then once you start getting all of that, then start collecting all this information. So let's say, in a Excel sheet or a CSV file, you have like three columns. First column is the question that you asked, which is your either your FAQ question or a variant of that. The second column has the answer that that you have in your RAG, in your FAQ for that particular question. In the third column, you are collecting what answer you got from the bot. So now you have these three things. And as part of your automated validation, now you take this file and send it to a third party LLM. So let's say if you are using Google Gemini for your bot conversations and RAG and all of that, then you are sending this file to OpenAI on Azure. And you are basically saying that, hey, Azure, I'm sending you a file that has three columns. The first is a question, the second is the answer I'm expecting, the third is the answer that I got from my bot. Can you validate that the answer I got in column three is in line with the one in column two? And get that validation, because once you get that validation or that verification of how pertinent the answers bot is giving, it will be an eye opener. You will find that maybe 80%, 90% of the times it's giving you good enough answers, but not 100%. And that's also the problem with bots, because customers don't give you feedback. So if you don't test it properly, if you don't kind of yourself find all of these gaps, no one else is coming and telling you. All you will see is just a symptom that people will stop using your bot. So it's very, very prudent. It's very, very recommended that you do these things. And in our case, we ran 144,000 test runs on 6,000 questions, and we got to that 99% kind of hit rate, and we were like, yeah, that's good enough. Then you definitely need human validation. So all of the testing that we are talking about here, it's very automated. It's kind of taking that 144,000 questions, running it through multiple LLMs, bringing results. But then once you get the result, then human validation needs to happen, and you will validate what is the answer, why it could be wrong. There's some analysis there. You may want to change your prompts, how you are writing those. You may have other layers that are part of your RAG, or maybe part of your Einstein, part of your GPT-5, which is a very similar agent force like product. So there are lots of layers, and you will tweak them, different levers that you will pull. And that's all where the human validation and a lot of expertise come in play. And really, the last part is that once your bot is live, you still want to keep an eye on it, which basically means that you want to run lots and lots of AI generated, insight into it. I call them post chat analysis. And again, in our implementation and Salesforce's implementation, a lot of this chat sits in messaging session object. So basically, what you are doing is you are running AI on the conversation that's sitting in messaging session, and you are saying, okay, what is the sentiment on this? Are there FAQ questions? Are there questions that bot was not able to answer? Because if you know which are the questions that bot is not able to answer, and you find that there are a lot of people asking that question, then that question needs to be added to your RAG. Similarly, you want to know, are there, what's the helpfulness score? Maybe you will come up with a scoring mechanism, and you can say, what's the score? So that not only gives you that, the sentiment is positive or negative, but it also gives you a number. And when you get a number, then it basically helps you prioritize which messaging sessions you want to kind of, again, the human validation part. look at and understand why bot may not be able to help it. Maybe it's a language thing, maybe because people are asking in different languages. Maybe whatever testing you have done, whatever implementation you have done, it's not very aware of different languages, or not very optimized for different languages. Again, human validation. So that's everything from my side. I will put it back to Saurabh. Saurabh, your screen is not showing up, so I'm not seeing the slide. So I don't know if there's a technical glitch there.
Thank you, Rahul. It is. It's working okay. I have it running somewhere. So hey everyone. Thank you so much to get a sense from Rahul about it, and thanks Rahul. So summary of this is pretty simple, right? You have. Oh, actually, it is not showing up. Hold on just a sec. Um, all right, we're back. Sorry about that. So yeah, the bottom line is that you want to have curated Q&A data that you can then put AI guardrails on, run some automated validations, do human validation, and have an ongoing post chat review, right? These are the 5 steps. What most of the times people don't talk about is that this thing here takes the most amount of effort. So all the curated question and answer, most businesses are not organized that way. You may have some of it in knowledge articles in Salesforce, you may have a bunch in PDFs, you may have them in third party, you may have them in product. So there's a whole lot of mix of these things, and this does take a bit of time. So if you embark on a project like this, definitely allocate a reasonable amount of time here. One of the things that we did was that we actually used AI to take customers' existing content and regenerate it, based on their brand, their template, all of that stuff, and essentially had them kind of then eyeball it, approve it before we used it. So it accelerated a little bit of the migration from a bunch of disparate data sources. And then once they were done, then we were able to do all of this. I think the part that's really clever here is that the automated validation, and you see we do it, Agent Force does it, like I'm sure other vendors do it too. You start to see that how important it is, right? Because these are the kind of things where you want to test at scale and you want to test for variance. You may have a significant number of FAQ questions or other kind of things that you want to test for, and you want to test its variances, right? Like if I ask the same question in 3 different ways, what's the answer, what's the level of confidence you get, and always validate it with a different AI model to prevent any sort of implicit bias that a model may have. So like Rahul mentioned, right, we ran this on GCP, then we validated the score with OpenAI. So you want to switch different models, different provider, all of that, just to basically cut out any potential issues that may come up because you were doing everything on the same stack. So that's basically it. I'm going to go further and show you a little bit more, but before I do, I'm just going to eyeball it. Okay. So if there are questions, please do put it in the comments, and we'll take them as they come through. All right. So with that, let's move on. Okay, so how does this work in your Salesforce environment? You have, depending on the direction you're going in, you have either of those options. You can go down this path with Einstein bot and GPT-5 and the kind of things that we have done, where you can bring your own AI if you don't want to buy data cloud or something, because we don't need all that. We can just directly work with Einstein bot and with any AI infrastructure that you have. And what we have done there is obviously what we just talked about, right? It's automated human testing of, humans testing it and post chat analysis. And similarly, if you're doing it with Salesforce's Agent Force, then they do have their testing center which does synthetic data and parallel testing and things like that. The good news is you have options. The better news is you definitely want to pick one of them and move forward with it. Um, all right. The other part of this that that we are very glad that we had the opportunity to do, as this was one of the very early project. Like I mentioned, this was like 18 months ago, right? Like I was still like talked about when we went in production. The idea is to de-risk this entire deployment in a very sort of progressive way, right? So to begin with, do not go public with a chatbot. Start it internally, deploy it into an intranet or a community site that is only exposed internally, whatever ability you have. The good news with the Salesforce's Einstein bot is that you can buy it and embed it inside, non-Salesforce technologies. So the new version is called Meow, mobile in-app and web, and you can embed it in a custom mobile app, which is actually what our customer does. You can embed it inside any other web platform of your choice, just like a bunch of script you add and it'll just pop up. So anyway, so do that internally, build confidence, let your staff give you feedback. You don't want this thing to be in press. We don't want that either. So you've done this enough that everybody internally feels good. They're like, okay, we get it. It seems to be working fine. Great. And then if you have a partner channel, expose it to them, right? There is still contractual obligation with partners. They let you know before they go out and tweet about it. So you want to do that. And so what you're doing is you're making sure that you're progressively disclosing this capability to various stakeholders, and you're also getting active feedback and improving things. They may say, well, this answer looks off, or this is not true for Japan, it may work for you know Europe, right? So you want that kind of global perspective into this across different user base and things like that. And once you've done all this and everything seems good, then you go the big bang customer, right? You're deploying at that point with a lot of success, a lot of organizational buying. The other thing around this is that it's also giving you time from a change management perspective and user adoption perspective. Your internal machinery is now well oiled by the time you get to this stage. So do we have the right kind of dashboards? Are we getting feedback? The post chat analysis that Rahul talked about. This is making sure that all of that is in place and you're actually able to use it. So how does this really work from a classic 30, 60, 90-day perspective? Uh, And this is kind of applicable to us because GPT-5 can be deployed in literally 3 to 5 weeks. You could go live if you have all the requirements and if there's enough movement internally. But obviously, we talked about content and all of that. So if you wanted to think about a 3 month plan and like what are typically the ways to do it and things like that, then the first 30 days you want to do some assessment and planning. You want to make sure that from an AI readiness perspective, there are things available, right? The content exists in a usable form. We can do an audit of this. You can align your stakeholders internally. Who owns this content, right? The FAQs, knowledge bases, some of this, or the product data sheets, particularly for our product company. Who owns it? Is it marketing? Is it customer support? Is it product management? A mix of all of them, which will come from where? So there's a bunch of questions like that you need to be asking, and you want to kind of have an internal alignment around. And what would be the face of victory here, right? What are the success metrics that we're talking about? So that's what you want to do in parallel, or in sequentially. You could do build and testing. Our team typically works with customers. We would deploy it in a sandbox, and the customers can test. They are just internally testing. This chatbot is not exposed anywhere. You want to be really, really comfortable with it. The good news is because of our architecture, like we have Einstein Chatbot connected to GPT-5 running on Salesforce, connected to your LLM. Because of this entire infrastructure and the way it is connected together, you have very, very proven pieces of technology. Einstein Chatbot has been there forever, integrates with a bunch of things, standard Salesforce capability, super great product, super tried, tested. This is not a new beta thing that will happen and we'll get, you know, it's been there, right? So you're using that, and sandbox is, you have all the typical DevOps type best practices. So you're leveraging a lot of what your organization already knows. So you can do all of that here. You can build, you can test, you can connect it to RAG. Our team works a lot on that kind of stuff with customers. And basically then with this combo of Einstein Chatbot, GPT-5, Salesforce data, RAG, all of that, you're able to test this thing out. And then you deploy and optimize. You do an internal launch, the three groups that we talked about: internal, partners if you have those, and then public. And when you're doing this, you want to deploy, you want to optimize. You may have areas to look at in terms of performance, in terms of, is this giving the kind of answer, is the tone correct, right? Are you able to tweak it and have it do something that it should not be doing? So you have the opportunity to do a lot of those kind of things here. And basically that's really it, right? You do all of that and you're able to do this. This is a link to a group that we have on LinkedIn that you can join. Somebody asked a question around some of this content, so we will add the content here, and so please feel free to join it. And we'll also share this video and stuff like that there. I wanted to show you a really quick video of the demo for something like this. So let me actually run this here, or give me a sec. I'm going to expand this, rerun this again. So what you see here is that this is a chatbot, right? I am talking to a chatbot here, and this is the Einstein chatbot. I'm going to pause it here. And essentially, what's happening is, as I'm talking to this chatbot, I'm asking questions. So, right off the bat, you see a very different user experience. This is not like we are saying, here are the three options, and then you can, oops, looks like it's not rendering. All right, so I'm going to just keep it in a non full screen mode, and hopefully you can see it. If not, I'll share this video. So basically, I'm asking these questions, and the idea is that this chatbot is answering those questions, right? And this is essentially using Einstein chatbot to GPT-5 to an LLM or RAG. And so what you see is I ask this question. So imagine this is a university scenario, and I'm like, what's your process? And it's giving this answer. This answer is coming from their AI infrastructure and RAG model in the background. So this is trained on their knowledge articles. This is trained on all of the other stuff that we have from the customer. So this is validated information that it's providing. So I'll go on. It'll ask, the person is going to ask another question, and what you start to see is that the chatbot continues to answer questions. And what's interesting is that the third question that will get asked here is not in scope, right? How do I buy bitcoins or something like that? So what you start to see here is that when this question is asked, this is where the guardrail kicks in. What we're doing is our chatbot. Oh, crap. Let me run this again. Sorry about that. I'm going to go till the very end of this. And sorry, it's just like, my apologies. I want to just get to the end of it so you can see it. And basically, at the very end of it, what's happening is that the chatbot is like, it's preventing the user from answering that question, right? So at this point, we are just saying, hey, sorry, we don't have answer to that question. I'm still learning. If you want to speak to a live agent, just say agent. So essentially the idea here is that we are doing intent detection on all of this conversation that's happening. And when we detect an intent that is not in line with the answers that are being provided, then we can redirect them to an agent. We can create a case. So there's a bunch of very clever configuration that allows the bot to do this. The other advantage of an approach like this is that you can actually deploy it in multiple languages. So if you go here in our uh, demo videos, you can see a whole bunch of them, and I think there is a one on multilingual, right? So you can see a multilingual video there if you like, and essentially, over here the chatbot is just responding in French or in whatever language somebody is asking questions in. And these are some of the really capable areas where Google AI and Microsoft OpenAI on Azure and uh, AWS, Anthropic Cloud on AWS. They're doing a lot of very, very interesting work. And you're starting to see how in large enterprise scenarios in regulated sector customer, this is like quite well slotted out. You want an AI chatbot type capability that can be run on your website, regardless of what technology your website runs on. It can be run on your mobile devices. It can be run in an in-app environment if you have an app, a mobile app on, Apple or Android phones. So it can run inside there. It can run in authenticated and non-authenticated mode. And then you have Salesforce and GPT-5, which is basically validating and logging all of this back into out of box Salesforce objects for messaging session and all of that. And then on top, then this is connecting back into your RAG model. And then you can see that it's all coming together. I know we are at time. I'm going to see if there are any questions on this. So I think Travis asked around the slide deck. Travis will be sharing the video on the group, and the links that are here. I think there is some more stuff we are going to add here in our resources. So the other thing I know we have, I'm going to see if there's any other question now. So in the interest of time, I know we are almost there. I'm going to show you just one more slide for those of you who are a bit technically inclined. Let me just go pull that up. Just an architecture slide to kind of help you get a sense of it. And then I think if there are other questions, I can answer them. All right. So basically, this is kind of what we are doing behind the hood, right? Like everything in purple is Salesforce. So GPT-5 is running in your Salesforce environment. It is connecting to your public website or to social media channels, your mobile app, and all of that. And we are then basically connecting with your AI infrastructure here, your LLM, your RAG, and all of that. And essentially, this is kind of what's making this work. So when somebody is asking question, it's going through GPT-5 to your RAG model, which in turn is kind of pulling your knowledge articles and all of the keyword intent detection. We are using the capability of your AI infrastructure, so that works really well. That means you are in control. You can bring whatever technology you want, you can lock it down, have zero retention, use data residency, have these instances wherever in the world you want them. So that's basically it. When you think about, again, lawsuit proofing these chatbot type implementations, you definitely want to really dive deep into the security aspects of it, into the compliance aspects of it, and the due diligence of actually doing it. So, as a technologist, I will tell you, people who talk about, this is really easy to do, have probably not done it. When you do it, you do realize that there is a lot of technology that makes it easy to do. And we would like to think we are one of them. But a lot of this kind of stuff, there's no vendor that can help you after a point, right? You do need your own people to weigh in and do this. You need your people to weigh in and do this. So hopefully this was useful. I'm not seeing any question here. Rahul, if you have any comments, then please go ahead. Otherwise, we can conclude.
No, nothing from my side.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Please do send us any feedback you have on LinkedIn or here on YouTube. Apologies for the back and forth. We did not anticipate getting into a technology issue, but streaming is just interesting that way. Appreciate your time today. Have a great day and a great weekend. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye bye.